My new thing, fits in a clock, breaks in a car, pulls on my brain. Are you ready to see? This is my new thing. Are you ready to see? This thing is my new thing. Shyness will show, excitement will glow. I'm sharing this thing. That thing is my new thing.
Oh, wow, folks. Can you believe it? It's another episode of My New Thing. I'm comedian Dan Wilbur.
Holy shit, I'm Zach Sims, and I'm also a comedian.
Right.
Fuckos!
Wow. That's the kind of vibe we bring.
Well,
Aggression.
I'm trying, I feel like we've been trying to grab the Marin audience after he's leaving. I feel like we've already talked about him a few times. So now we're just, what's up, fuckers? You know?
That's right.
Saying fuckers instead of what the fuckers does feel way more angry.
It's aggressive.
Yeah. Hey, you sick fucks. I bet you like this, don't you, you little freak?
You little freaks.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a little freak, you're going to love this episode of the show. And before we get to that interview, Zach, what are you obsessed with? Even though last week you said, let's move away from obsessions and just call them hobbies.
Well, like I said, I just don't want it to feel like somebody don't want to come on the show or something because, like, I'm not, like, stalking anyone or something like that. It doesn't have to be that intense, you know?
I'm obsessed with a woman who lives in the third floor of my building.
Which, I mean, I would love for that. That would be, honestly, my kind of podcast. But, you know, if I've learned anything, I don't have the same interests as the rest of society. Not that I condone stalking. It's just, you know.
Well, it's a great idea to do a version of Serial where you're the criminal.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean? That's another podcast I want to emulate.
There has to be, soon enough, there will be a thriller where the killer has a podcast and they keep revealing, like, clues through the podcast or something like that. Maybe I should just write that. Fuck. Should I? Let's stop recording. Yeah, delete it now.
Only Murders in the Building is about people investigating crimes.
That's true.
But, yeah, just doing crimes.
Can I just give you just a quick side note?
Yeah.
I don't think that show's good. That's just a little take. People got so crazy for it. And it's like, I like the people in it. And I get that it's nice that Steve Martin can buy another fucking Rembrandt or whatever. But I don't, it didn't really speak to me. That's it.
Well, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's for, you know, when I watched it, I was like, I bet my parents would love this.
Yeah.
What I said.
Yeah. Which is fine. It's good for it's good for older liberal people to have entertainment, you know. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Aside from MSNBC. Anyway, my obsession or interest, I've been trying to get a little bit more into cooking. So this would be, I'm going to say cooking / nostalgia. If that makes sense. So my main go-to dish in the house is sometimes I'll text my lovely lady friend, girlfriend, Stephanie. I'll go, Primavera night? And she gets very excited. It's like, oh, this guy's going to finally do fucking something. So I'll make a pasta primavera, which if you're not familiar at home is literally pasta and then vegetables you cook in a pan for about 6 minutes. And there you go. You squeeze a lemon, and that's your flavor. Eat that, you little pig. You know, I don't say that to her, but, you know, it doesn't taste like much, but I make it. And it's fresh. And that's the nice thing about it. The vegetables are fresh, and it's delightful. The new one that I did, and this is a nostalgia, was my grandmother used to make Chex Mix. She would make homemade in the oven.
Wow.
Chex Mix, absolutely.
Wow.
Holidays, 100%. That's what I would say as I was eating it. And I decided to make it at home myself to give it a try. And I'm happy to say that for the low cost of roughly $45 of ingredients, you can make a day and a half's worth of Chex Mix that would cost $3.50 at your local grocery store.
Wow. Some people make their own pasta.
Sure.
You're like, I want to make a breakfast cereal.
Absolutely. Well, it's a snack. It's not a breakfast cereal. You have to buy a breakfast cereal. That's part of the snack.
I see. That's a Chex Mix. I get it.
Yeah. No, so
I see it now.
Yeah, so it's Chex, it's cayenne, it's peanuts, it's pretzels,
In my head, she was making like rice checks.
She was weaving wheat together.
Weaving them together.
Yeah.
She was just like, this is how they do it in the factories.
Yeah.
And there's just like a single.
I should have mentioned that my grandmother did grow up on the Oregon Trail. So it was, you had to do a lot more. Remember that,
Trail
kids?
Mix.
Mm-hmm.
Trail
Absolutely.
Mix she made.
I don't think did you ever play Oregon Trail? I don't know if I ever actually played it. Yeah.
We played it in school. If you were a smart kid, or if you're, I don't know if it was if you were smart or just a problem in class, but whichever one it was that they labeled me, they put me in the corner and they're like, why don't you just play this Sim City for a while?
Yeah.
Learn how to make some roads, because you're going to be working on one when you're an adult.
Sure, yeah.
That's what they said.
Well, in our day, that was like when Macs really were just school equipment. You know, that Mac wasn't cool. It was just like that was like their only way was to, and I guess it was a good marketing strategy when you think about it now, but was to give to like first graders. We all had like a Mac in the classroom, and it would be Oregon Trail.
Now, I was in 7th or 8th grade when Y2K was coming for us, and my computer teacher had a little funny toy. It was a bug that made some noise. It made a noise of a crashing sound, and it was called the Y2K bug, just like a funny little joke that she would have on her desk.
Yeah.
And every time we had a substitute teacher, which substitute teachers were like, we will not be using the computers today because I know you're all going to do something that makes one of them explode. But they were just scared of children.
Sure.
You remember that? There was a good time. There was a good couple years where, like, I'd say it was right after Columbine, where all the adults were scared of us. And I want to go back. I want to go back and take advantage because they were really scared that we were going to kill them at any moment. And they were especially scared of the computer lab. And just to make this story super long, the bug would make a crashing sound. And so whenever we would drive the substitute teachers to the point of insanity because we would tell them, well, the computer's making that noise. And then someone would squeeze the bug like under their chair and they'd be like, oh, I guess it's that one over there. Oh, no, it's this one. I hear it now. And we sent the teacher for the entire period, you know, instead of showing us glory on VHS or whatever she was going to plan, she had to go around turning off each individual computer. And I still think about it. Just wasting a whole adult hour.
I would be curious if kids still torment substitute teachers in that way, because that was one of the fun things. Yeah.
I think they're nicer now. I think they're cruel to each other on the internet anonymously. And then in school, they're probably like, you know, I love Miss Hazel. That's
fair. Well, because they don't know how to talk to anybody. You know, they can't talk to anybody's face, so they don't know how to, you know. We had a teacher, Miss Sardine, I think her name was. And she was kind of in on the fact that, like, she would come in and be like, all right, you little assholes. You know, she was, like, having fun, too. I think she was older. But I think one kid just kissed her in the mouth once, if I remember correctly. Like, not in a, like it was an old comedy sketch from the 40s or something like that. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
She loved it. Yeah, it was fun.
We had one guy who, when we were in 5th grade, way too young, we hadn't had sex ed yet, I know that, and he came in and explained to us who Patient Zero was, because I think he had just heard it on the radio or something, but he was a very strange guy, and he just told us about, like, the AIDS epidemic, and he was like, and there was this one guy, and he was a flight attendant, and he was mad at the world. And we were like, what is happening? And he was like, he killed everyone. It was beautiful. What a great substitute teacher.
I might have just learned about Patient Zero right now, to be honest, but I wouldn't.
There was a guy who felt that it was that God had punished him, and he was going to punish everybody else. I don't think he believed in God, but you should look it up. Patient Zero. Okay. Good radio lab on it. We're just going to get on here and talk about other podcasts.
Please
check out WTF. Check out Serial.
While you still can. While you still can. Radio Lab, new host, better than ever. Now, Dan.
Yes.
What are you into? What's your new thing right now?
Now, I want to say, since we had this conversation with Gabe, and this will help us introduce it a little bit, because we are talking about movies once again, that I have been obsessed with movies that I can watch on my treadmill. And that is my new thing. I would say this is the hobby. I don't know about you, but I'm trying to forget about whatever it is that I'm doing at all times. If I'm doing something, you better believe I want to be listening to some music or a podcast or anything. What if I just didn't have any thoughts all day? Wouldn't that be nice? But especially when you're on a run. If I'm on a run, I'll listen to music, I'll listen to podcasts, which you have told me in the past is psychotic to listen to talk radio while jogging.
Well, to me in particular, jogging outdoors. To me, there's something about the gym that I think a podcast is more acceptable. But outdoor jogging with Ira glasses, voice in your ear seems.
I don't want any nature sounds. I don't want any music that follows the pace of my legs. I just want, Ira Glass being like, he was devastated to find out that he was dead.
That's a good Ira Glass.
Cry. Wasn't that good?
That was a good Ira Glass.
Just pulled it out. Yeah. He saw me drunk once on a show. I don't think he likes me. Let's talk about that for 20 minutes.
I bet he remembers.
That was just a fun. He remembers. He remembers. That drunk idiot. Anyway, I have been obsessing over finding movies. It's the summer. It's a great time. I think in part because Gabe convinced me to watch a couple movies during this conversation that are smart and fun to pick apart and think about the politics and what does it mean and like what is capitalism? Should we even be doing this? Instead, I went the opposite way where I was like, when I'm running on my treadmill, I want to watch the dumbest thing that I've already seen. Yeah. So I've been going through the Bruce Willis oeuvre. Is that how you say that word?
Sure.
I watched a couple episodes of Moonlighting, and then I watched all the Die Hards, and then I watched 12 Monkeys, which is one of the finest films of the 90s.
12 Monkeys is good. Yeah.
And then I forgot that my knees hurt because I was like, damn, Bruce Willis is the man. And that's the only thought I had while I was running.
You were enraptured by and a great Brad Pitt performance. Let's be honest,
excellent Brad Pitt.
100% when he's doing that flicking his finger thing.
Got a wonky eye.
Absolutely, it still looks great. Still looks great with a wonky.
Still
eye.
Hot.
Yeah, absolutely hotter than any of us. But yeah, to have that but you were so enraptured that you forgot. That's like sometimes you smoke weed before a run. Sometimes that'll happen where you forget. Who you are, where you're going, or what your name is. And that's,
I love it.
Nice.
I wish that edibles did anything negative to me, because then maybe I could stop. But I've had a number of days where the day after I take an edible, I have just the greatest run that I've ever had because I'm just sort of brain dead still. I'm like, I should use my body. And I'm like, man, my body feels good. It's full of THC still. But great. I probably couldn't take one and then jog, but I could afterwards. A good walk while you're high. Oh, that's fun. Then your brain's your entertainment. There's a little movie going on in your brain, and
absolutely.
It's frightening. So speaking of movies you can play in your brain, guess what we're doing today, Zach?
We're talking to Gabe Pacheco about, as always, a variety of things because we can't be held to one little topic,
That's right.
But we eventually get around to discussing the cinema and some of a variety of things, kind of just how the cinema affected our lives as children. And today, some classic films to watch. Honestly, I'll just talk you through beat by beat through the episode so you don't even have to listen to it.
Get a pen out. Don't listen to this on the treadmill. Don't listen to this in your car. Make sure you take notes because this guy is a great source he's a culture vulture. He's great. He's fun to listen to, and we all get to listen to him right now. Everyone cares about this.
No, but the show that you speak of, which is important for me and plugging things, and why not do that right up top? The show is Funhouse Comedy at Pete's Candy Store, which is one of oldest like first wave hipster bars in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. And if you watch movies like indie films where they have somebody going to see their friend do a poetry reading or like play an acoustic guitar set, Pete's Candy Store, that back showroom is often used in these like indie type films because it's got a very Wes Anderson aesthetic to it, you know? Mm-hmm. And we've been running our show there every Wednesday for the last 10 years. And both you, Zach, and you, Dan, have been are part of the Funhouse family. So,
of course.
Oh yeah.
FF.
Yeah.
Love to be in the FF.
I found out on that Wednesday that Pete's opened in 1999, which both seems early and late to me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It feels like it could have been open in like the 80s or 2010 or something like that.
I always joke that it looks like you're in the Weimar Germany when you're on stage there. It looks like you're in Cabaret. The show lights. I'm like, we're going to do a big broad comedy for the Nazis in the audience, but we're not Nazis. We're just actively participating in their joy.
Sure.
How about 1999 feels very Weimar USA because it is like the end of the Gen X era, the end of the dream, the Clintonite dream of like a free world post, the wall falling down. Like we were in the end of history, like that Fukuyama sort of free market neoliberal cul-de-sac, and we hadn't been awakened to the brutality and savagery of the world again by 9/11 yet. So we were like, it was that weird little sleepy period.
Absolutely. We were watching Fight Club.
Yeah.
Thinking this is what it's all about, Absolutely. I do feel like, and maybe you guys are smarter than me, I do feel like the 90s was a good one. That would have been a good one to be older during. But I'm sure there was terrible things going on.
Yeah.
There's plenty of terrible things, but people were saying, hey, it's the 90s because they knew. They knew we were crushing it. You're just living in the 90s and saying it, addressing it.
Yeah, you still had archetypes like a Tyler Durden from Fight Club.
Sure.
You still had slackers and the idea that are like Ethan Hawke's from Reality Bites. The idea that you could be an artist still and also sort of like malaise, which like ties into that it echoed the 70s.
Yeah.
And then things got really dumb after like 2001, right? Weimar, we stopped having cool art. Dane Cook became the biggest stand-up comedian for like 10 years. The Man Show came back on. It like, you know what I mean? It was just like,
yeah, sure.
It became Van Dutch.
We tore it all down.
I can't remember, but did something happen in 2001 that was transformative? It's something about that year. Who knows?
No!
Just a hard reset.
Now, we don't need to get. I mean, we could make our obsession 9/11 if we want. But one fun fact about me that nobody told. I was in junior high. Nobody told us that 9/11 happened. We went through the whole
really
day.
Funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I got home, and my brother was in high school, and he was like, "Pretty crazy, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, recess was wild." And then he let us. Then he informed me that the world had changed before our eyes.
I like that. I feel like there's a lot of your childhood that was not sheltered, and that's the one thing.
Yeah.
They didn't keep it from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. My dad was, actively, shooting heroin while telling me about it. But my dad's My dad's also never done heroin, but he did opiates. We don't need to get into it. That's a whole nother thing.
Wait, on this subject, because we are talking about, if you were older in the 90s, if you remember that, because there are people that I'm sure are listening right now who do not remember 9/11.
Oh, God,
it's weird.
I hope so.
It's weird to work with people. One time I was hanging out at the bookstore. I call it hanging out, even though I get paid to be there, and I'm supposed to be working. But I was hanging out, and my friend Claire was like, I said something that had gone wrong in the store, and she goes, "Was this your 9/11?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, but 9/11 was my 9/11. I don't know how else to say this." But my favorite part of that day, and we should all go around the room and share our favorite part of 9/11.
I'd love to.
Was that was I was in Cleveland, Ohio. I was at school, and they told us what happened over the loudspeaker. They said, like, go find a TV in, like, the student lounge and go see what's happening. It's horrific, which is a weird thing to say. Guys, don't miss it. Go look at the TV. And they said everything is canceled, like everything after school, unless we say otherwise. And they were like, JV football, you will still be practicing. I was like, no.
Yeah.
We got a big game. We got a big game on Friday. You better shape up, kids.
That's very Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, that's what Ohio's like.
And it's interesting you brought up that you work at a bookstore now, which also feels like an anachronism. Like you are
Yes.
in the 90s. You're like Brendan Fraser from that movie where he like comes out of the
Encino Man? Is that Encino Man? No.
It could be that, or it could be one where bomb shelter. Or
Yeah. Blast from the past.
Or comes out of the jungle. Like he is always playing a man out of water who's like, what is this? Contemporary.
He was in a lot of movies where he was confused and wearing an outfit you wouldn't expect. I would say.
But that was like such a fun dream. Like I had a dream in the 90s of as a kid because I was in high school. I graduated high school in 97. So for me, it was like, it'd be so cool to work in a bookstore because people still read books. Or the people that knew the gatekeepers, like going to a radio, working at a radio store, music shop. I don't know what you call them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It was like Spotify.
The analog audio shop.
Yeah, you were the expert, and like people would make fun of that as like, oh, you're pretentious, but you were literally the person who actually had taste because you heard everything. Everyone else had a budget and was like, I can only buy one CD this month, and so I'm gonna love it even if it sucked. Or same thing with video stores. The video store was the place where you could be like, that was the library, pop culture library.
Absolutely. I think of there's like a podcast. I don't want to plug other podcasts, but I'll listen to this TV podcast with these kind of guys who used to work at Spanner, yada yada, and one of them just like was in college in Boston in like the 90s, and he worked at Kim's Video, and then he worked for like Spin Magazine. You're like, man, this guy fucking did it all. And then 9/11 happened, he lost his hair, and now he's hosting
I think it was cooler to work in a bookstore 10 years ago also. Sad to say it. I think it's over. But in 2010, 2012, it was still like, maybe Amazon won't work. Maybe the Kindle will fail. And we were all like, yeah, the Kindles aren't selling because nobody wants that. They want real books. But now it's the people who want real books are the pretentious ones. They're like, I just can't do it. It's got to be print media. And you're like, it really doesn't. You can read Ulysses on your phone. It's actually easier because you can Google what the hell does this mean? And your phone will tell you, and it's the same device that you're reading it on. I will die on this hill that there is no whatever study they do where they're like, actually, your brain rots if you read it off of a screen. And I'm like, that's not true.
And you can also
unless you're reading it off of TikTok.
You can listen to it on Audible because, before we had books, the oral tradition was a big deal. And we had people around. Yeah, go on.
Well, people used to memorize better.
Yeah.
People used to memorize the stories because they heard them a couple times.
And humans have had the same brains for like the last 100,000 years. I'm making with my pseudoscience. So we've had the capability of creating symbolic representation and like abstract ways of scaffolding like knowledge. But I believe that there were some people who one member of the tribe would start writing things, and the rest of them just stone that person, and we're like, no, why?
Sure.
Why are you trying to like ruin our brains with this version of ChatGPT, this life hack? Like,
that's interesting.
It's better that we all actually use our brains like the way that we have that the Lord evolution made them.
Thank you.
And forget the first person that made spreadsheets happen. Dude, we should have just stoned that person and grazed for berries in the savannah.
I'm for it. I mean, I don't really like getting real hot. I will say that. But otherwise, I support. I did see earlier today I saw a teenager with a disposable camera, and she was very excited to have a disposable camera. And I do like that. I do like that the younger generation, which will the last generation, is going more towards some more like old school tactile stuff. You know,
they love a Polaroid.
They can't get enough.
They love to get a Polaroid. It makes you look something about it makes you look a little chiseled, like the shadow, the shading. No matter what I think it's the flash gives you a jawline. That's what I'm after.
There was this idea that because we all took camera photos, right? And photos, you had 24, right? So it's like a limited number, and of those 24, only 4 turned out well because of lighting or the red eyes that you got from the flash,
and the pocket snap.
And then
you wound it and you put it in your pocket and you snapped a photo of your own junk.
And then you had to drop them off, and some creep like in that Robin Williams movie 24-Hour Photo, where all of your photos. So you even have to worry about taking nudes, because you're like, oh, who's going to look at these nudes? Some old guy with his hands in the chemical processing suit in the back of the CVS. So
do you know this?
Yeah.
Do you know the Springsteen story of he goes west after he's put out the first album, and he's not famous, but he's, established a little bit.
Yeah.
And he goes and he just takes some photos of his band practicing and takes it to a 1-hour photo place and goes to get them developed. And the creepy guy behind the desk is like, hey man, you in a band? And he's like, well, I'm looking for a band. I want to play on the West Coast. I'm looking to form a band out here. That's why I came. And they go, well, you should play with us, man. And it turns out it was just like a high schooler. But Springsteen goes to the kid's house and he sees that they've gotten their instruments for Christmas that year. And it's March. They don't know how to play anything, but they are just having fun. And he just decides I'll do it. And he just starts singing songs and teaching them and just jams with them for hours and plays the concert that he said he was going to play. And I'm just sure those guys look back on that as the greatest afternoon of their lives.
Of course.
You remember that time Springsteen came because we developed his photos?
I thought you were going to say that, and that guy was Little Stevie. And then
No. Well, Guy played Mini-Me in the Austin Powers film.
No, I'm going to get darker with that because
Please.
That reminds me of Brian Wilson and our boy Charles Manson.
Oh yeah,
he is our boy.
Collectively our boy that we talk about all the time on all of our comedy road trips. He wanted to just. Charles Manson didn't want to get let out of jail. He was like, leave me in here. And because he was completely institutionalized. And he, in jail, he learned how to play 1940s guitar, pre-rock sort of songs. And then he gets out and he falls in love with the Beach Boys. And he vibed with them, hung out with them at parties and stuff before that thing that happened.
Sure, the snafu.
Which wasn't his fault.
Dude. Yeah, man, he just made suggestions, He's not responsible for other people following through with what he said. But yeah, that was the 9/11 of the 60s, right?
Yeah, well done. Absolutely. Now, Gabe, let me ask you this. I see you as a Renaissance man in a lot of ways, not just for your love of walking around naked in public. I assume that's what they did. I don't know. But a man who has many interests. Are you somebody, would you say that you are generally, and it doesn't have to be obsessive, but are you generally a man who goes from one interest to another or have things carried with you for a long time, or how has that gone?
Well, I'll say this. I think this year has been a year of wandering around and sort of being very scattered and not disciplined with obsession. So when you guys asked, it actually took me a minute to remember what that was like. And I think the lifelong obsession I've had though is film, and sort of just consuming it and watching it. I know it's so easy to say, dude, you guys like movies? People, but I remember a moment that I became really obsessed with movies was my grandma. I had to go and live with her for a summer right after my grandpa passed. I was 14. and I just had my first crush, like maybe kissed my first girl.
Yeah.
Right. That was springtime. And then my parents were like, by the way, you got to leave DC and go to Orange County and like stay in Orange County, California for the summer. So now I have to go to California for the summer. And I might have been 15, let's say. So, and I was like, what? Like, I just like, my friends had just started skateboarding. I just gotten a bass guitar. I'm starting to talk to like girls, age appropriate.
Sure.
And I know I gotta leave. And like I love my grandma, dude, the best person in my life. She actually, my parents have very little artistic inclinations, and if anyone, she as a child she took me to like the library and let me pick up any book I wanted. She's the one that put me in art classes during summer times. So, without her, I wouldn't have any. She gave me like the building blocks, to write and read. And, but as a young, horny high schooler, I certainly did not want to go and spend 2 months at grandma's house.
Yeah, sure.
And
that's not what I've been seeing on the internet. There's a lot of videos about summer with grandma.
She lived on the top of a hill, so I brought my skateboard there, and I was like, dude, I can't even.
Sure.
I'm skate down and then I walk back up, and it was the worst environment for, and like in a city you get to walk. Like I could not do anything. Right, felt like I was under house arrest, and but I made a list of like 100 movies I wanted to watch.
Oh yeah.
And so that time when I was with her, she was like, yeah, I'll drive you to the video store. And I think I could max out at like Sam Goody's or whatever it was, like five rentals. And I just sat at home in the air conditioning and banged out like 3 or 4 movies a day. Mm-hmm. By the end of that summer, I probably watched 100 films and listened to a bunch of new music. And just skateboarded a tiny bit in my little park driveway, and I came back to DC, and I just had like this. I was the internet,
pre-IMDb,
and I'd also and I'd like learn to be comfortable by myself, in a way that it's like getting out of prison, but like having like Max Cady getting out of prison, or like Malcolm, that sort of like, I read the books,
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Life has no meaning. And so that was, I guess the jump off is to say that I love movies, and that became my obsession for years.
Now, were you allowed to watch whatever you wanted at grandma's house, or
anything I wanted?
Anything.
It's crazy because, like, well, I'd say my parents also had very little understanding of. I was like the first, and my dad. I remember there's an amazing movie theater in Washington D.C. on Connecticut Avenue called the Uptown Theater, and it's like 2 stories. It looks like it's like an old opera house type looking building with balcony and whatnot. And my dad, when I was like 5 or 6, he took me to go see The Last Emperor. Because I guess he wanted to see it.
Sure.
And this movie is like a 2.5 hour long movie starring Peter O'Toole. And it's about the last emperor in China. And the film starts with him in a re-education camp under his government. And he's like slitting his wrists in the bathroom. So it starts with this old Chinese man in a prison camp trying to kill himself. And then it cuts back to like him being a child and showing up in the Forbidden City, and then Japan takes over and he becomes like a puppet emperor. But and then immediately after that movie, my dad takes me for Chinese food for the first time. So it felt like a cultural immersive experience. And when you said, was I allowed to watch anything? It's like, I don't think that they wanted me to watch, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The idea of movies having mature themes was like, yeah, dude. I was like, did that guy try to kill himself? And he's like, oh, yeah. Because life for him in that camp. Why do you think he would be so sad? And I was like, I don't know. Because he was like a prince who then got imprisoned. And he's like, bingo. And I'm like, why'd that old lady? Yeah. Sorry, go on.
My parents were trying to force me to be a little artist, but they also wanted to shelter me at the same time. So I have many memories of one time I was at the video store and I picked up A Clockwork Orange, and my dad was like, now that's a movie. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch that. And I took it home, like, there's this, like, horrific rape scene in the beginning. And I was like, why did you let me do this? And he was like, oh, it's so good. And there was another time when I was in 5th grade that he took us to The Usual Suspects because he thought it was just so good. He had to show it to us. And the funniest part was that there was a scene where he was like, well, I don't want my kids to know about this. And he took us out of the theater. He was like, okay, follow me. And he took us out of the theater and explained what happened, which was also in the movie. Later I saw it. In the movie, it's just them explaining what Kaiser Sose did, which is to kill the gangsters. Instead of killing the gangsters first, he kills his family that's held hostage by the gangsters, then kills all the gangsters but one. And he's like, you tell everybody that this is what happens when you try to frame or extort Kaiser Sose. And my dad like just told it to us, and that was way scarier. him just quietly telling us in a lobby.
Look, I had this it never worked as a joke. Maybe I have to kind of retool it, but I thought everyone understands prophets, like the prophecies, because every one of us has experienced a prophet. And what I mean by that is in kindergarten, the first prophet you have is the child whose parents let them watch whatever they want.
Yeah.
Because then they show up and at lunch, they're like, hey, let me tell you, there's a guy named Freddie, and Freddie will come in your dreams. And Freddie was he was a child murderer, but then all of the parents decided to burn him alive. And now he seeks revenge, and his name's Freddie. And I'm like, what does he look like? Covered in scars, and he's got kitchen knives for hands. And you can sort of the interpretation of a child trying to relay this to you is even scarier, or like more fascinating than seeing it itself.
Mm-hmm. I had that, but I was watching Seinfeld, and. It was just like, when a guy's looking at a magazine and then he does something that's embarrassing, I don't really know. And then years later, I was like, oh, he was jerking off. But it was like guessing at what was going on more than anything. Or like, I was talking to, something, kids, it's like when you become friends with your ex-girlfriend and I'm 12. I have no idea what's going on. I had a similar thing, but it was, I have a very vivid memory of my dad, because I live with my dad, so I had you watched what your dad, so I watched like Dirty Harry as like a 8-year-old or whatever. But I remember he was going to take us to see The Page Master, which was the Macaulay Culkin film, which I've still never seen because my dad clearly did not want to see that. So we were driving by the movie theater, and like The Lion King was also out, so there's a long line for people to see The Lion King, and my dad was like, it's sold out. Let's see this movie, Dumb and Dumber. That looks interesting. So he took us to see, and it was great. It was a fun transfer. I do think that is like for lots of creative people, there is that summer where you are alone with kind of nothing to do but take in art, and that kind of transforms who you are in a lot of ways. I feel like a lot of people have that experience.
Yeah, you know who had that? And I was just thinking about it, is one of the Wright brothers got his teeth knocked out by a kid who lived next door, who also had messed up teeth. He had messed up teeth, and they gave him cocaine to dull the pain. And so this kid was a psychopath by the age of 12, and he hit. I think it's Wilbur, who's the sort of introverted one. Hits him with the hockey stick, and he spends a year feeling like, well, I don't have my front teeth and I don't want to go out in public, and he just reads for a year, and then he invented the airplane, whereas the three of us invented this podcast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Long way to go for that moment.
Oh, that's true. I mean, but we don't know where this could become. They didn't know in those early days,
I think they knew exactly what they were trying to do. It'd be weird if they were like, we're going to make a new kind of Dr. Pepper. Oh, I got it. It's like root beer, but better. And then they were like, whoops, I invented flying.
Yeah. No, I love that. There's like the history of nearly everything, I think is the name of the book.
Bill Bryson?
Yeah, and he talks about the invention of gunpowder, or like not gun, maybe how not the way the Chinese did it, but the more European, like somebody's just like peeing, and it's like the ammonia from urine that the scientists
Oh,
just
wow.
collected, and he's just like, oh, it's flammable, like oh, I can use it for like matches, and then sort of the evolution of it, but it wasn't that he was thinking ahead of time. I want to make a flammable powder,
Right.
Used for weapons.
It's just that dudes rock and they'll light their pee on fire. They'll try to do it. They'll try to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Gabe, I want to say that a movie you recommended recently that you don't even know you recommended to me, I started watching the Pee-wee doc, and that was a new obsession with me, is that he had a lot of drag aesthetic, not even aesthetic. He was getting into drag. He was getting into 70s alt culture. He wanted to go to the factory and work with Andy Warhol before he made this sort of perfect children's show. And I'm just starting there to say that's like your most recent obsession that I saw you publicly talking about. But do you find yourself seeing a movie, documentary or fiction, and then just it changes the course of your week? It changes the course of your life? What's going on?
So it's, I think, going back to the well and looking at other artists so I've listened to another podcast. I don't need to name check it right now, but I listened to an episode they had on Bill Hicks, and then an episode they had on Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Same podcast, and I'm currently in the middle of like their Pablo Picasso episode. Mm-hmm. But they're looking at the lives of artists and seeing how no one's doing anything like new that springs from nowhere. It's always like a recombination of their obsessions that are often trite or banal in their own context, but then it's like it's like a reconfiguring of new things that makes something seem unique. And like with Pee-wee, for example, we're looking at he's watching like old shows from the 50s, like children's shows, like Howdy Doody type stuff, Captain Kangaroo type things, but it's being informed by the fact that he went to Cal State and their performance art program. So more of like a Kate Berlanti program,
right?
Like Bard, like experimental theater program, and it's like infused with queer studies or like queer cinema from the era, like the Warhol type stuff. And you're mixing these two things, right? This sort of because I don't even think he wanted to be funny necessarily. Like comedy was just a medium through which he could find access to being what he really wanted to be, which was like a performer, an actor.
Right. So that brings us to a question we've asked a lot of people on this podcast, and we've done thousands of episodes. How have movies specifically influenced your work? Does it influence stand-up? Do you do a lot of... Because I think about it all the time. I'll see a comedian do a music joke, and I've seen people go like, why are you doing music lyric jokes? It's not even that it's hacky. It's just like, oh, why did this artist make this choice? And you're like, because it sounded good. It sounded good in the context of this song, shut up. And so sometimes when I make fun of a movie, I'm like, well, because they made that choice because aesthetically that's how movies work. You dork. And I yell at myself and I say, you shouldn't do comedy. I hate you. And that's what I say in the mirror every morning. Anyway, that's my influence on my comedy. Do movies influence your comedy? And are there any specific ones that you're like, wow, this is...
Oh man,
perfect.
I don't know if they influence my comedy as much as like my worldview, and also just inspire me to want to make more things. And when I watch a good movie that has an ensemble cast, maybe I'll think to myself, well, how can like a bit or incorporate different characters, right?
Yeah.
Or what is the rhythm of this, the editing in this? Because you can watch a film and then you can think about like your own act on stage and be like, well, okay, like, can we cut to something else? Like, can we, how can we connect things and have it be different types of segues?
Right. That's a good point, because I often think that I'm like, I need to spoon feed them the cut to this part. And I think when I would watch Jesse Pop would never say he said and then she said and then I said. He would just do the line and then turn and do the other line. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. And it was really simple, but he never like fills in those gaps because audiences are smart enough to know what like a hard cut is, even if you're on stage. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
You could make a channel turning sound if you wanted to. You could have a song lead into like one part of the lyric lead into another scene completely. Just so there's so many different ways that cinema, I think the language of cinema can teach you that the transition can be a visual motif, or it can be a line of dialogue and then someone responding to that line of dialogue, but in a completely different context. So
now, would you say you're watching, because you listed a few films, some Friedkins when we were talking about what you would do on the show, what we talk about.
Freaky Billy Friedkin.
Bill Frieds, Willie, yeah. Big Will, Slick Will. Are you watching, do you feel like you're watching more old stuff? I feel like I am generally, even going to the theater, it's a beautiful thing that's about New York, and watching, like I saw Chinatown recently in the theater. Which was great. I'd seen it before, but it's still great, of course. Are you finding you're going more old school, or are you? I mean, Sinners was great. Who didn't see Sinners? We all saw Sinners, but
I didn't see it yet. I
saw Sinners. It was great.
Don't spoil it.
But are you getting more? Basically, are you watching more old movies than current stuff? I guess that's all I'm saying.
So, like I said, this year has been a year in the wild where, to be honest, I have been consuming a lot less content outside of like doom scrolling.
Sure.
But there was a time, so I lived in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and I would go to Film Noir, and I would rent movies all the time at Film Noir Cinema, and now it's like a cool indie movie theater it's attached to it. Will is the name of the guy. He's like an old Polish man who, and I would go there, and he was almost like a doctor, because I'd go in and I'd go, I like this Heat. I like Heat. I like heist movies, bank robberies, but I was wondering if there's a movie like Heat that might be, Korean. I'd be like, oh, Gabe, not Korean though. You're gonna love it though, Gabe. The best. I'm gonna give you a French, bank robber movie. You're gonna love it. And then so he would I would just go in and be like, nah, I'm feeling like peckish. And 2 or 3 different sort of details for what I wanted to see, and he really gave me this roadmap for looking up old films. And analog, I'm like a little analog boy, because anything can be taken off streaming at any moment. So I actually have this prop to show you right here, and this was my Live and Die in LA in DVD from but it's now streaming, so you can watch it now, but it wasn't for years, and I was just constantly digging through the crates and like looking. And so I'll order old DVDs from like Europe even. This is another one. This is Born in East LA, not Friedkin. Cheech Marin's his directorial debut. And it's kind of relevant now because of all the ice raids and everything. But
sure, this
is another one that was almost memory hold. And I think the fact that everything is online now is like, it's easier. We always like talk about Stalin's Rush Soviet Union, where like they'll take the photos of him with his homies, and every year they'd reissue the photo with like different people erased from it. And I think that we're in a state right now where our dependence on the internet for everything means that it's going to be so easy for them to erase like media from our consciousness.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I have started buying Blu-rays. I do think the Blu-ray world is making a big comeback. Behind me, I got a big stack of them. But I saw To Live and Die in LA for the first time recently on a streamer.
Yes.
And it's, first of all, William Peterson, what a piece of ass. My God.
That's right. Nice ass, that guy.
Yeah.
You can tell why Hannibal Lecter wanted to fuck him in.
Of course.
Yeah, he's not just the CSI guy.
I do love the Brian Cox Lecter, by the way. Speaking of memory hold things, because I think Silence of the Lambs is one of my favorite movies, like a piece of writing. But I don't even really give a shit about the performances. And I know it's supposed to be like the greatest performance anyone's ever done, but I really like Brian Cox's Lecter. If you've never seen it and you're listening to this, and you get to see that hot piece of ass.
Now that's Manhunter, correct?
Manhunter,
yeah. Just I don't want to lead people
astray. We're all manhunters on this pod.
In a lot of ways,
because of this.
It was remade. Red Dragon was the remake.
Right.
Oh.
But Michael Mann, another great director. So William Friedkin's the director that I'm like obsessed with now, but or had an obsession with for a while. But another one is Michael Mann, and Michael Mann's Manhunter is, I'd say, the superior Lecter story or representation of Lecter.
Yep.
But less popular because it's like so much more cold and us.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, it's also not about because Silence of the Lambs is about like a woman in a man's world. There's like a whole thing that feels like season 2 of True Detective, and now we're really in the podcast zone. 3 dudes talking about crime noir. I do want to go back to Live and Die in LA because I also just saw it and I had to purchase it.
Let's talk about Live and Die in LA. Here we go.
Let's talk about it. I think it's parodied in Mulaney's opening of his show, right? The opening of To Live and Die in LA is everybody's live in LA, is him getting in the car and putting the glasses on and the whole stylized imagery of it. And I had never seen it, and I just didn't know like how dark it was going to be, I guess.
It's really dark.
It's not about cops that save the day. I was just very used to growing up with Die Hard, and so going backwards to the 70s, and this is just something that I think Tarantino talked about in his book, was he had this long section about how Rocky was so exciting that he knocked over Apollo Creed even once because people were so used to movies in the 70s being fucking downers, like really hurting your soul. And I don't even know if To Live and Die in LA is like the 80s, right? It's not it's an 80s movie.
It's an 80s movie, but I'm going to say that, Friedkin's, it looks like Lethal Weapon. You know?
Yeah.
It's a sun-splashed, like neon 80s LA aesthetic, but it has that gritty writing and energy of The French Connection.
Right. It feels like The French Connection more than a movie that would make you feel good about yourself and that the police are doing their best.
Well,
That's what I'm always say.
Sorcerer, which is another Friedkin. We're just going through the Friedkins, which it's been a while since I've seen, but I don't want to spoil. It's great. I know Dan hasn't seen it. It's also like if you just love like story, it's clearly like this guy is just so good at making a movie and ratcheting tension and so forth. But that movie, all this stuff happens, and then at the very end, it's like, oh, by the way, the one guy, it's not going to end well for him.
It's true. It's and when you told me this podcast was about obsession, that I don't even know if Friedkin is my obsession, but I would say that he is an artist who is fully focused on obsession and men who are obsessed.
Yeah.
And so when you brought it up, and you texted me, I texted you back, Cruisin', Sorcerer, Live and Die in LA, and French Connection. And then the other one that I was thinking of was The Hunted.
Oh, I've never seen that.
I don't know that one. Yeah.
Which is totally fine.
So do you have a really good story? This is just a fun little podcast question. We're all lovers of movies. Do you have a great, I was in the theater and I saw the funniest thing or the most interesting thing while you were there? And we can go back to Friedkin and why it's important, because I know you like to, we'll get back to it, but do you have a good, I saw this in the theater story?
I have just a real quick one. I was seeing at the Union Square. This was 15 years ago or whatever. And there was a trailer for the Ed Norton Hulk movie. And at one point in the trailer, the Hulk was rampaging through New York, and he's like fucking up the Apollo. He's like going through Harlem. And this woman in the back goes, "Hulk in Harlem. That's what we need. We need the Hulk in Harlem. How you doing, everybody?" Which was and it was great. And she was asking for money. But it was
a
delightful. But it was for a just cause, what she was asking for money for. But it was a delightful moment, not for herself.
She was selling candy bars for like her basketball program.
Basically, yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I guess kind of a story about neglect and trauma would be that I was also in Union Square at the theater, the Regal, I guess it is, and I was watching the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm not a fan of these. I love the first one; it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
but I go and I'm watching the remake, and then like halfway through, I just hear an infant like crying in the front, and then I hear a toddler be like, "Oh no, this is." I was like, the infant was one thing because like, oh, that's annoying me, but that they're not gonna remember. But then like a sentient 3 to 4 year old being like, oh no,
I'm having a permanent memory right now.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
In the back of the theater, like, lady.
I only asked this question so I could tell you about how I saw the 90s film Phenomenon with John Travolta, where he thinks the aliens have blessed him with something that's changing his brain to be smarter. And I don't know, it's like a metaphor for Scientology, that he can move things with his mind eventually and he becomes super smart. But it starts with him seeing a light in the sky. And by the end, he sees the light again when they figure out that he actually has a brain tumor. But when he sees the light a second time and it like hits him after this whole buildup of like, he knows that a rabbit is trapped in his yard and he knows why, and he knows how to move sunglasses with his brain. The second light hit and my cousin loudly yelled, "Now he's stupid." And everyone fucking lost
That's great.
Oh, it was so good. And I was so
that
happy
kid
that I was with him, and I was like, "That's
you were like, I know that guy.
I know this guy."
Yeah,
crushed. So what I wanted to ask is the Friedkin movies. This would be a good way to ask you, Gabe, because we've watched a lot of dark stuff. We've talked about the Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia, specific. You love it, Chef's Kiss to that movie. Then I've watched a lot of 70s, 80s dark films. Do you think that's good for your soul? Do you think it's good for society at large? In the way that, like, I'm not out here. I'm not a senator. I'm not saying we should ban the Mortal Kombats and the Call of Duties. I'm just saying, do you think, because I know you're a culture vulture and you have your mind on the state of America at large, do you think these are good for your brain and soul?
I think they're better for your brain than what's out there, where there is like clearly defined good and evil, and where there's a lot of, I'd say even like we frame things like, one of the most important films of the last 20 years was The Dark Knight. I'm like, kill yourself. Like, it's over. If that's where your brain is, it's a wrap. Like, because for one, it's 100% correct that there's an incredible opening scene with a remake of Heat using all the Joker bank robbing. Yep. There's an incredible cinematography, really great acting. All of this is true, and yet the moral quandary or conundrum is like, are we gonna? Does Gotham have the hero that it needs? And it's too like ancient Greek sort of. The ideas are so abstract and like obfuscated by the fact that it's like people in capes and like clown makeup. Whereas with like a Friedkin movie, I'll take that The French Connection, I think, is a movie that gave birth to like Lethal Weapon buddy cop movies, right? And seen as it, because it was a commercial hit, people then go and say, okay, let's make Copaganda. But I'd say The French Connection is like the least cop-friendly movie. It's about two idiots.
Yep. He's a bigot. Gene Hackman.
He's a racist. Gene Hackman.
And he's chasing ladies. He's not paying attention to his work.
And it's not even made to look cool, like his womanizing, because you can have he's not like a Frank Sinatra, like boozy, smoking ladies man. He's like a sexual harasser, like catcalling, stinky bully. Who's
he's like I'd like to ask you something about those boots, miss. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What is he doing?
And
R.I.P.
Oh man, yeah, R.I.P. to Gene. And the thing is, Gene Hackman, the person, he didn't even want to take that role, right? He was in his mind, he's like, I don't like cops. I'm like a counterculture guy. Like, it's weird that you would want me to be this. And so, for that to be like a breakout role for him, I'm sure it didn't really fit with what he thought his brand was going to be as an artist.
Right.
But
he thought he was going to be Mark Ruffalo. He thought he was going to be.
Yeah,
he's going to be in the superhero movies while he tried to save the world.
But I'd say like all of the incompetence that you see in shows like The Wire, like incompetent obsession.
Yep.
I'd say McNulty, that character, is a direct descendant of the French Connection cops.
That's exactly what I feel like. I saw The Wire before I saw French Connection, and it didn't hit me until they're showing the last, no spoilers, but what happened to everybody at the end of the French Connection, a la Animal House. You guys remember an Animal House where they're like,
sure,
this guy
of course.
is now a doctor. It was great.
Yeah.
And but they do it with the characters, and they're like, these guys, oh, this guy's still on the loose, and you're like, oh, they achieved nothing, and that's sort of the take of The Wire is like, wow, we did so much work, and it was probably good that we killed those drug dealers, but also, Baltimore's still fucked.
I think we also have to examine that I don't think a lot of people are driven by justice or like a higher purpose. And in Friedkin films, I think you see that as well. Like, whereas in the French Connection, the cops are not driven by a real sense of right and wrong, but more Popeye Doyle's character is almost like a drug addict, where he's chasing the high of chasing someone, of catching someone, of being right. It's a game for him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really care about like even his team. The idea of the cops being a team that he plays with, he can hurt any of them to continue being like a hunter.
Right. So if you don't identify with them, though, because I'm guessing that's what you're saying, is that it's sort of stupid. It was nice when I was 6 years old and I saw Keaton as Batman, and then I left the theater being like, I am also Batman. That it's probably bad that when I was 20 and I saw Christian Bale as Batman, that I walked out and I was like, I'm also Batman. But when I watch those movies, I'm like, I don't connect with someone like the cops in that film.
Yeah.
Maybe To Live and Die in LA, I feel like the softer cop who's basically, it's his origin story of becoming a bad cop is the whole point of the movie. And so when you leave, you're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't feel like that guy. And it is like a very strange, I guess I'm like coming to this conclusion right now as I'm talking to you, is that it is weird when you don't have anyone to latch onto, like a Tom Hanks, to be like, I sort of do sometimes feel like Forrest Gump, and what a sweet thing. But when you watch something that's challenging and you go, am I supposed to connect with anybody? Am I supposed to be connecting with Hannibal Lecter? He seems to be the only nice guy in here.
Well, that's what makes you think, I think, right? That's the whole kind of the anti-hero thing, is that you're seeing, this is the first person you're seeing in the movie, so you assume you're rooting for this person, and then that makes you kind of think about what they're doing in a deeper way, I think.
Right. I just learned how movies work, so this is great. I'm glad I could have it explained.
Yeah. I mean, I think that fascism
Here we go.
is always, the art of fascism is saccharine sweet and
broad
and we look at, like, if you look at German not like medieval fairy tales, right? They bad things happen to people, mermaids get turned into sea foam. Little Red Riding Hood might eat her grandma, like pieces of the grandma along with the wolf, right? Just bad. There's more horrific things that then Disney comes along, who was like very fash coded as a human, and then we in the U.S. say things like this is not who we are. Whenever we do things like a school shooting or lynch somebody or the cops kill a bunch of people, we always go, this is not who we are, and it's like as though. But humanity has all of these ugly things in it, and I think that when art shows us that, it allows us to not suppress it. And like, I think watching Disney stuff makes us worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
No, I agree.
We're Absolutely. Not challenging things. We're living in a world now of like an attack almost to be like, well, Avenger Marvel movies, but it's like, why am I watching Black Panther where like in a fake African country called Wakanda, where he's friends with a CIA agent. Like
interesting, yeah.
Like that is, I might as well be in Starship Troopers watching that they're watching on their way to go like on bug hunts.
Now, is there something more recent that you think reflects that? I mean, we did French Connection to The Wire to. I guess Starship Troopers is a satire about war. Is there something a little more contemporary that gives you hope by being a hopeless film?
Oh man,
there's not enough sad movies.
No, I don't know if sad. Oh man, I don't think
sad.
I don't know if that has to be it, but like I think I really liked Uncut Gems, and that's because it's. I was thinking about it today because I was reflecting on the structure of Friedkin's films and sort of the opening scene in the mines in Africa where they're extracting these diamonds that then end up in Manhattan. And that reminds me of like the beginning of Friedkin's movies like The Exorcist and also Sorcerer. But I feel like that character is also a character who is like not redeemable, but there's so much to learn, I think, in terms of like living a good life by watching someone self-destruct.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I like that. That I like when I saw it in theaters. I was thinking about Michael Mann the whole time I watched it, except for in the opening. It does feel like a Spielberg movie is kicking off because there's these people coming out of the mines and they're terrified, and I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna find some secret. They're going to find that chunk of amber that has the mosquito in it, and this is going to turn into a monster movie. And then it's just like, no, we're in a gritty crime drama.
Now, I guess I would ask Gabe to speak to our literally 150,000 listeners and share, what do you think? Well, if I'm going to want to start with Friedkin, I mean, this guy, how many was he made? 20, 30 movies, something like that? The guy made a lot of movies, maybe more than that. What would be a good entry point? Because I do like what you're saying. I think there's a lot of truth to the anti-hero or just the honesty of a lot of his movies.
Well, unfortunately, they're very slow by today's standards. I don't think they're boring at all, but they are character-driven, and they are challenging to watch because like just even in the structure where but I would say, okay, if you want to see like kind of a really small movie that is Rambo reinterpreted, The Hunted, which stars Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones. And well, if Rambo came back, would he even be like verbal? Like what if you programmed someone to be a killing machine to go and assassinate people all over the world using their bare hands and knives, and they came back to the U.S.? What would that person really be like?
Hell yeah,
right.
And that's what The Hunted is kind of like William Friedkin's much darker interpretation of Rambo.
Okay. I will throw out, too, just as we're talking about physical media, Sorcerer just had a new 4K release. You got it right there. And
we're just selling the Criterion
I feel
collection.
Like, I could be wrong, but I feel like the runtime's not too bad on Sorcerer. I feel like it moves pretty good.
I think it's the best. Zach, I regret saying The Hunted. Sorcerer is like in my top 10 list of movies.
Yeah, sure.
Just like, damn, man, maybe it is too like. I think if anybody who's seriously into movies, you have to see Sorcerer.
It really is like it. I wouldn't put it in my. I prefer Woody Allen, a good man, but it is. He is so good at making that movie and just like the craft of, and not in a boring way, but the craft of storytelling is so expertly done, and it's not boring by any means. It's visually cool and there's lots of action in it. But yeah, I do think. Oh, and it's also funny just because it came out the same week as Star Wars, right? So that's like it got no love because it was like this very gritty movie, and then the world changed basically the exact same day.
It like literally 9/11, like Star Wars 9/11 70 cinema, because right after that, everything that came before was, or even contemporary, was seen as like almost irrelevant. And people, and because Star Wars was also like basically a sword and sandals franchise in space.
Yeah.
And it's good and evil, and it's like got all this serialized nonsense that boomers love, and it had like a catchy John Williams type score. So everything about it was just like all sugar,
Yeah.
And when you watch Sorcerer, is literally no sugar. It is so, but amazing. So just to start off, can I talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
Oh man. Okay. So Sorcerer is like the best heist movie made up of completely irredeemable people. And it starts off, the sequence, the structure is that there's like 4 vignettes at the very beginning that take place all over the world, and you jump right into one. So like one of them is a French businessman, and it's all in French. So now we're like, I'm an American, I'm a fucking dumb American, and I show up to the movie theater, and there's 10 minutes on screen where people are just speaking in French. And then you cut from that to like, now we're in Mexico, and we have a Mexican hitman killing somebody with very few words. But they're Spanish. So I'm like, wait, I just listened to French. Now I'm listening to Spanish. Am I in a foreign movie? Am I in the wrong theater? I thought I was going to watch something that made by the guy who made The Exorcist. What is this? And so like, and then you go to Tel Aviv, and you're following a bomber, not a suicide bomber, but like a PLO liberation bomber, and he is now one of the protagonists. And all of these dudes end up in a they're all criminals or people who are on the run who end up in a third world village somewhere in Colombia, maybe. And like it's all mud. The village is all mud. So we go from like the most opulent places in Paris to like the grimiest swamp in Colombia, and you just see these people, these criminals, have to come together as a team to solve a problem. And they hate they have no reason to like each other. And that there's nothing, it's not that there's nothing redeemable about them, but you've seen the lowest points in their life.
And they basically, like you said, they go on a mission where it's I don't know if it's a heist, but it's heist-ish in tension, and it's basically they're transporting these explosives through a very treacherous land. So it's all tension the whole time because they just could explode at any moment. Right. It is great. It's fantastic.
It's the Suicide Squad without apes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, Zach was telling me it's Wages of Fear, which I think is the
I think it's actually a remake of that, but still. Yeah.
But I'm only bringing it up because we started with ideas come from somewhere, and art is an amalgam of your previous ideas. So I'm like hearing Sorcerer, and I'm like, that sounds incredible. And then when I hear the actual plot, I'm like, oh right, Wages of Fear, and then just. Not to dismiss it. I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Not at all.
So
no, it's
I'm gonna find it.
It's the interpretations. That's what all like I said. I'm pursuing Woody Allen, but mostly just his personal life. We all take things that we want and we tweak them in our own ways. Absolutely.
I love Vicky Cristina Barcelona, but mostly the scene Javier Bardem is like, I want to take you both to Albedo to
sure. Yeah.
We'll drink some wine. We'll make love. Well, hopefully.
That's very different than Gene Hackman's "Tell me about your boots."
Talk about those boots.
Yeah. I also, just for the record, am not a sexual predator or deviant. Just want to get that out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good. Well, no one was thinking it until you denied it.
Well, the Woody Allen thing, I wanted to make it clear. For humor.
Yeah.
Do you have another question? Yeah. Oh, no, I was looking to Zach. We're good? Those are the questions.
I feel satisfied, but...
Did you have another thing, Gabe?
Well, very quickly, I think Sinners is another excellent film, and it's a counterpoint to what, I don't want people to think that I just want to stare at the swamp in the muck and the mire of sort of moral ambiguity. But I think it was Louisa. I hang out with Louisa a lot, obviously, and she has the Why You Mad podcast to plug it. It's rarely out, so it doesn't matter. But we talk a lot about Yeats versus Joyce. Art. And, with the Joycean idea of the literary person who's he's the first guy to write about people having bowel movements, or on the toilet taking a shit.
Wiping the ass with the obituary for the funeral that he's going to later. Kind of fun.
And so, I don't want to say grotesque, but sort of reflecting the world as it is. Art that reflects the world as it is. And I think a lot of Friedkin's art does that because the characters don't necessarily even know their own motivations. Their motivations are not high-minded or righteous. They are almost animalistic impulses, right? Obsessions and addictions. And then when you look at someone like Yeats, Yeats was looking to present a world as it could be. And I'd say, even when we talked earlier about Pee Wee Herman, I'd say a mirror of Pee Wee and what he was doing was John Waters. Their work was very similar, and they're both queer coded and they're both very campy and contemporaneous. But Pink Flamingos and Pee Wee's Playhouse are two very different versions of one. I think of as very Joycean, right? The Pink Flamingos, that grotesqueness, looking at a butthole and seeing Divine eating shit. But then Pee Wee is sort of a sexless version of this, of a utopia where we can all both show the diversity of people you can have in your community, and celebrate difference. But one shows it with its warts and all, and the other one shows it as look how great it could be if we had a cowboy and a talking couch and all hanging out.
That's interesting.
That's cool.
Well, I'm gay now, so
that was the point.
That was basically stolen from Paul Rubens. Watch that doc where he's like, "I'm not gay anymore. I changed my mind." It was perfect. So this is so great. Thank you for coming and telling us about movies. We've never heard of them before, so this was all new to us, and we had a great time. Where can we find you, Gabe?
Hey, you can find me on my podcast that I co-host with Samir Nassim, and that podcast is called Halal Cartels, and we discuss, a lot of contemporary headlines in the news, and also some pop culture and some history, and it's it's just two dudes in the center of the empire, with some hot post-colonial takes. And we also have Funhouse Comedy, and that's every Wednesday at 10 p.m. at Pete's Candy Store.
Yeah, you can go to our show and then go to Pete's Candy Store. We did it.
You can. Yeah,
we did
absolutely.
It. We caught
it can be
the
done.
Beginning. Yep.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you to Gabe Pacheco, and thank you to you at home listening. Now, Dan, where can they find you on social media?
Well, they can find me at Dan Wilbur Comedy on Instagram and TikTok. They can find me at Dan Wilbur everywhere else. I got a Substack. We got this podcast. In fact, if you're listening to this and you have a second, why not rate the podcast on Apple, iTunes, maybe Spotify, maybe Pocket Cast, whatever that is that everyone's listening on that I just found out about. It's very good. We love Pocket Cast. It's our favorite. Check that out. Tell everyone about this pod and come to our show every Wednesday night at 7:30 in Park Slope. It's called We Have Fun. Zach and I are both there. And Zach, where can we find you?
Well, for starters, I just want to point out as just a little PSA. I knew a guy who got kicked out of high school because he found he had a pocket cast. So be careful with that. But I am on Instagram at also Zach Sims, and I am on the TikTok at Zach Sims Comedy. And yeah, come see We Have Fun at Young Ethel's in Park Slope every Wednesday. I got a link tree. I'm sure you do too, but I got a link tree on the Instagram as well. I have a Substack as well, and it's there on the link tree. But also, just a real quick, I feel like we want to give back to society. People are listening to the show, and we thank you. I'm sure you're not still listening at this point, but even if you are, we thank you again. People are downloading, people are listening. It's growing like paranoia in the 50s or today, really, or at any time. So we're excited about that. And until next week, see ya, hobby holers.